Most people don't struggle with communication because they don't have something to say. They struggle because they don't know how to say it. They hold back. They soften their words too much. Or they go the other direction and sound harsher than they intended. Because being direct is often misunderstood. People think direct means blunt or cold or insensitive. But that's not what directness is. Directness is clarity. It's saying what needs to be said, without confusion, without avoidance, and without unnecessary force. The real challenge is this. How do you stay clear without sounding rude? Let's break that. This hesitation usually comes from past experiences where direct words were delivered harshly, creating discomfort or conflict. As a result, people begin to associate clarity with bluntness, even though the two are not the same. Being clear does not mean being aggressive. It simply means expressing your thoughts in a way that is easy to understand, without unnecessary confusion or hidden meaning. When communication lacks clarity, conversations tend to become complicated. People may use extra words to soften their message or avoid saying what they truly mean. They might circle around a point instead of addressing it directly, hoping the other person will understand without needing it to be stated clearly. While this approach can feel safer in the moment, it often leads to misunderstandings. The listener is left trying to interpret what was actually meant, which can create frustration or miscommunication. Clarity removes that uncertainty. When you speak clearly, you give the other person a direct understanding of your thoughts. There is no need for guesswork or interpretation. This does not require harsh language or a sharp tone. In fact, the most effective clarity is often delivered calmly and simply. A straightforward statement expressed with respect can communicate more effectively than a long explanation filled with hesitation. One reason people confuse clarity with rudeness is because of how direct communication is sometimes delivered. If someone speaks abruptly, raises their voice, or uses dismissive language, the message may feel harsh regardless of its content. In these cases, the problem is not the clarity itself, but the delivery. The same message, spoken in a calm and respectful tone, would be received very differently. This distinction is important because it shows that clarity and kindness can exist together. Another factor that contributes to this confusion is the fear of conflict. Many people believe that being direct will automatically create disagreement or tension. To avoid this, they choose softer, less direct language. However, avoiding clarity does not eliminate conflict. It often delays it. When expectations are not clearly communicated, small issues can grow over time. What could have been resolved with a simple conversation becomes a larger problem because it was never addressed directly. Clear communication actually reduces unnecessary conflict. When both people understand each other's thoughts and expectations, there is less room for misunderstanding. This creates a more stable foundation for discussion, even when opinions differ. Clarity allows people to address issues early, before they become more complicated or emotionally charged. Being clear also demonstrates confidence in your own perspective. When you express your thoughts directly, you show that you trust your understanding of the situation. This confidence does not need to be loud or forceful. It can be quiet and steady. A calm statement delivered with certainty often carries more weight than a long explanation filled with uncertainty. People tend to respond more positively when they can clearly understand what is being communicated. At the same time, clarity respects the other person's ability to understand and respond. When you communicate directly, you are not forcing your opinion onto someone else. You are simply presenting your perspective in a way that allows for an honest exchange. This creates space for the other person to share their thoughts as well. Conversations become more balanced because both sides have a clear understanding of what is being discussed. It is also important to recognize that clarity does not require unnecessary detail. Being clear is not about saying everything that comes to mind. It is about saying what is necessary in a focused and straightforward way. This approach keeps conversations efficient and reduces the chances of misinterpretation. The message remains strong because it is not hidden behind excessive explanation. The way a message is delivered often determines how it is received. Words carry meaning, but tone gives those words direction and emotional weight. Two people can say the exact same sentence, yet create completely different reactions depending on how it is spoken. This is why tone plays such a critical role in communication. It shapes perception before the listener even has time to fully process the content of the message. Tone includes elements like voice level, pace, emphasis, and emotional expression. A calm and steady tone can make even difficult feedback feel manageable, while a sharp or impatient tone can turn a simple statement into something that feels like criticism. Because tone operates alongside words, it often communicates intention more clearly than the words themselves. People may forget the exact phrasing of a sentence, but they usually remember how it made them feel. One of the most common challenges in communication is that people focus heavily on what they want to say, but pay less attention to how they say it. They may choose the right words, but deliver them in a way that creates tension. For example, a straightforward statement like, "I need this done by tomorrow," can sound like a clear request or a harsh demand depending on the tone used. The words remain the same, but the emotional impact changes completely. Tone also influences how open the other person is to listening. When someone feels that the tone is respectful and calm, they are more likely to stay engaged in the conversation. They may not agree with the message, but they are willing to consider it. On the other hand, if the tone feels aggressive or dismissive, the listener may become defensive. Instead of focusing on the message, they focus on protecting themselves from what feels like an attack. This shift makes productive communication much more difficult. Another important aspect of tone is that it can either reduce or increase tension in a conversation. When discussions involve disagreement or sensitive topics, tone becomes even more significant. A controlled and measured tone helps keep the conversation grounded. It signals that the goal is to communicate, not to dominate or win. This approach creates space for both people to express their thoughts without escalating the situation. In contrast, an uncontrolled tone can quickly escalate even minor issues. Raising the voice, speaking too quickly, or adding sharpness to words can create a sense of urgency or conflict. The conversation may shift away from the original topic and focus instead on the emotional intensity of the exchange. Once this happens, it becomes harder to return to a calm and constructive discussion. Tone also reflects internal state. When someone feels frustrated, stressed, or impatient, those emotions often appear in their voice. Even if the words are neutral, the tone may reveal underlying tension. Being aware of this connection allows people to manage their communication more effectively. By taking a moment to steady their tone, they can prevent emotions from shaping the message in unintended ways. Another reason tone matters is that it helps maintain respect within conversations. Respect is not only shown through word choice, but also through delivery. A calm and composed tone signals that the other person's perspective is being acknowledged, even if there is disagreement. This approach keeps the conversation balanced and reduces the likelihood of misunderstandings. Tone also plays a role in clarity. When words are delivered with the right emphasis and pacing, the message becomes easier to understand. Speaking too quickly or without clear emphasis can make even simple ideas difficult to follow. A steady and controlled tone helps organize the message, allowing the listener to process it more easily. In many situations, adjusting tone requires intentional awareness. It involves listening to how words sound as they are spoken and recognizing when adjustments are needed. This does not mean suppressing emotions entirely, but rather expressing them in a controlled way. The goal is to align tone with the purpose of the conversation, whether that purpose is to inform, request, clarify, or resolve. Over time, consistent attention to tone can improve the quality of communication. Conversations become more productive because messages are delivered in a way that encourages understanding rather than resistance. People feel more comfortable engaging in discussions, even when the topics are challenging. The combination of clear words and thoughtful delivery creates a communication style that is both effective and respectful. Direct communication becomes truly effective when it is grounded in respect. Without respect, honesty can easily feel like criticism or attack, even when the intention is simply to be clear. Many people believe that being honest means saying exactly what comes to mind without filtering, but that approach often overlooks how the message is received. Respect shapes the delivery of honesty in a way that allows it to be heard, understood, and considered rather than resisted. When people hear direct words delivered without respect, their focus often shifts away from the message itself. Instead of thinking about what is being said, they begin reacting to how it is being said. The conversation becomes emotional rather than constructive. Defensiveness appears, and the opportunity for understanding starts to fade. In contrast, when the same message is delivered calmly and respectfully, it creates a completely different response. The listener feels acknowledged rather than attacked, which makes them more open to listening. Respect in communication is reflected in both tone and attitude. It involves recognizing that the other person has their own perspective, even if you do not agree with it. This recognition does not weaken your position. Instead, it strengthens the conversation by keeping it balanced. When you express your thoughts calmly, you signal that your goal is to communicate clearly, not to dominate or prove someone wrong. This approach allows both people to remain engaged, rather than turning the interaction into a conflict. Calm delivery plays a key role in maintaining respect. A steady tone shows control and confidence. It indicates that you are not reacting impulsively but choosing your words carefully. This level of control helps keep the conversation focused on the issue rather than the emotions surrounding it. Even when discussing something difficult, a calm tone can prevent the situation from escalating unnecessarily. Another important aspect of respect is the choice of language. Directness does not require harsh or absolute statements. Phrases that sound accusatory or dismissive can make the other person feel judged. Instead, framing your message in a way that focuses on your perspective keeps the conversation more constructive. For example, stating how you see a situation rather than declaring the other person wrong creates space for dialogue rather than conflict. Respect also involves listening as much as speaking. Direct communication is not only about expressing your own thoughts clearly, but also about allowing the other person to respond. When people feel that their voice is being heard, they are more likely to consider what you are saying. This mutual exchange strengthens the effectiveness of honesty because it turns the conversation into a shared effort to understand, rather than a one-sided statement. In many situations, people hesitate to be direct because they fear damaging the relationship. They worry that honesty will create tension or distance. However, avoiding directness can lead to confusion and unspoken frustration. Respectful honesty addresses issues before they grow into larger problems. By speaking clearly and calmly, you show that the relationship is strong enough to handle open communication. Respect also prevents directness from becoming overwhelming. When messages are delivered too forcefully, they can feel heavy or difficult to process. A calm and measured approach allows the listener to absorb the information without feeling pressured. This makes it easier for them to respond thoughtfully rather than reacting defensively. Over time, consistent, respectful communication builds trust. People begin to expect that even difficult conversations will be handled with care. This expectation reduces anxiety around communication and encourages openness. When both individuals know that honesty will be delivered respectfully, they become more willing to share their thoughts without hesitation. Respect does not reduce the strength of your message. Instead, it enhances it by ensuring that the message is actually received. Words that are delivered calmly carry more influence because they are not competing with unnecessary tension. The listener can focus on the meaning rather than the emotion behind it. Maintaining respect while being direct requires awareness and practice. It involves choosing to remain composed, even when the conversation becomes challenging. It also requires understanding that effective communication is not just about expressing yourself, but about creating an environment where understanding can occur. When honesty is combined with calm delivery and genuine respect, it becomes a powerful tool that strengthens communication rather than damaging it. Simplicity in communication is often underestimated, yet it is one of the most effective ways to ensure understanding. Many misunderstandings do not happen because people lack intelligence or attention, but because messages are delivered in a way that is overly complex or unclear. When too many words are used, the main point can become hidden inside unnecessary details. The listener is then left trying to sort through extra information to find the actual message, which increases the chance of confusion. People often add more words than necessary because they want to sound polite, thoughtful, or careful. They may repeat the same idea in different ways, include extra explanations, or soften their message with multiple qualifiers. While the intention behind this approach may be positive, the result can be the opposite. Instead of making the message clearer, it makes it harder to follow. The core idea becomes diluted, and the listener may struggle to understand what is truly being communicated. Simplicity removes that problem by focusing only on what matters. When a message is clear and direct, it becomes easier for the listener to grasp the meaning immediately. There is no need to interpret hidden layers or guess the intention behind the words. The message stands on its own, allowing both people to stay aligned in the conversation. This clarity reduces the likelihood of misinterpretation and keeps communication efficient. Another reason simplicity is effective is that it respects the listener's time and attention. In most situations, people are processing multiple thoughts and responsibilities at once. Long, complicated explanations require more effort to understand and can lead to disengagement. A simple and direct message, on the other hand, fits more naturally into conversation. It allows the listener to respond quickly and appropriately without needing to ask for clarification. Simplicity also strengthens confidence in communication. When someone expresses their thoughts in a clear and concise way, it signals that they understand what they want to say. There is no hesitation or unnecessary elaboration. This confidence makes the message more impactful because it feels intentional rather than uncertain. The listener is more likely to trust a message that is delivered with clarity than one that is surrounded by excessive explanation. At the same time, simplicity does not mean being abrupt or careless. It is not about reducing communication to the point where important context is lost. Instead, it is about removing what is unnecessary while keeping what is essential. A simple message can still be respectful, thoughtful, and complete. The difference is that it avoids extra words that do not contribute to understanding. In many conversations, misunderstandings arise because people assume that more explanation will automatically lead to better clarity. They believe that adding details will make their message more precise. However, too much information can create multiple interpretations. When several points are introduced at once, the listener may focus on a different part of the message than intended. This can lead to responses that seem unrelated or misaligned with the original point. By keeping communication simple, the message remains focused. Each sentence serves a purpose, and the overall meaning becomes easier to follow. This focus helps guide the conversation in a clear direction. Both individuals understand what is being discussed, which makes it easier to reach a shared understanding or decision. Simplicity also helps in situations where emotions are involved. When conversations become emotional, long explanations can make things more complicated. Feelings may intensify, and the message may become harder to interpret. A simple and direct statement can keep the conversation grounded. It allows the speaker to express their thoughts without adding confusion, and it gives the listener a clear point to respond to. Another advantage of simplicity is that it encourages better listening. When messages are concise, the listener can focus fully on what is being said instead of trying to filter through unnecessary details. This improves the quality of the interaction because both people remain engaged. The conversation becomes more balanced and productive. Over time, practicing simplicity in communication can lead to more effective interactions in both personal and professional settings. Conversations become clearer, misunderstandings decrease, and responses become more aligned with the original message. People spend less time correcting misinterpretations and more time engaging in meaningful dialogue. Simplicity does not reduce the depth of communication. Instead, it enhances it by making ideas easier to understand and respond to. By focusing on what truly matters and removing unnecessary words, communication becomes more precise, more efficient, and less prone to confusion.